kick myself for trusting that damnable Minotaur. Little did I know that when the blue baby, or whatever his damn name was, led me to the nearest Dockland rogue, he had failed to mention that it was full of the truancy rangers. A quick bit of background on that. When gnomes, such as myself, departed without proper permission, we'll say, the truancy rangers were a group of aggressive negotiators that would come and persuade us delinquent gnomes to come home. That's how they liked wording it anyway. Point being, I was locked in the brig of a ship and headed back to face punishment. The greatest punishment is not finishing my book. Prison wasn't so bad, I guess. I was put in the minimum security area due to me not really being a threat. Just a mere nuisance. I could live with that. I just had to learn to live with the disappointment of my failure. That was going to be harder. I had spent a couple days in my cell. Occasionally I was let out to break rocks in the yard. Don't know why the prisoners had to do that. I guess it's to keep us busy. Sometimes we would go to the cafeteria for our meals, although I was allowed to eat in my cell. I wasn't much for socializing. However, I did make one friend. Her name was Welxis Pistonborn. She was the guard in charge of my block. I think that's what they call it. Anyway, she was a nice older woman. Not to be offensive, but she was too old to be a guard. I guess they figured non-threatening criminal, like myself, didn't need any intimidating guards to watch us. She would bring me food and we would have long conversations until she had to do her rounds with the other prisoners. I told her about my failed project. I was reluctant to tell, but she was surprisingly very interested. In fact, she had a tale of her own. I was reluctant to hear it at first due to hearing every gnomish tale there was, but this one surprised me. Apparently, her great-grandmother was the superb hero known as Brigadier Boomvroomburg.
It was a normal day in the city of Steam. At least, that's what the clocks said. They helped, since the city was in the middle of a mountain. Anyway, it was a normal day for the Steamers, even a little gnome girl named Petunia. Petunia was a young, gnomish girl who was the apple of her father's eye, exuding charm and beauty. She had long, beautiful brown hair that she usually had in a tasteful ponytail, and eyes of shining emerald. She was going in her finest pink dress to the shop to buy some more supplies. Petunia's father, Colonel Rolthscott, was a decorated military man and one of the richest men in the city of Steam, so Petunia could buy all the supplies she wanted. Little did Petunia know that she had an audience of gnomish thugs watching her.
Come on, fellas. Let's see what little puppet's got.
Petunia made her way down a dark alley. She stopped as she heard something.
Huh?
Petunia looked around but saw nothing. She shrugged.
Must be a breeze.
Petunia continued walking until she heard the noise again. Petunia looked around again.
Hello?
Again, Petunia saw nothing. She was uneasy, but continued her journey until she heard the noise again. Petunia was getting annoyed.
All right. Enough is enough. I know someone is there. Come out.
The thugs stepped out of their hiding places, eyeing the young gnome girl with sinister smiles and malicious laughter. The gang's leader walked up to Petunia with a big, threatening smile on his face. Petunia couldn't but sneer as she saw the mouthful of yellow, cavity-ridden teeth in his mouth. His voice made her cringe even more.
Hello, puppet. Where you headed this fine evening?
Petunia sneered.
I was going to buy a few items. Not that that is any of your business.
The gang leader circled Petunia like a predator eyeing its prey.
Would you like some company?
Petunia gave the thug leader a smile, one that she clearly didn't mean.
I'm all right. But there is one thing you could help me with, actually.
Oh.
You see, I am also looking for a gang of nare-do-wells harassing young women in the area.
The gang leader was taken aback.
Is that right?
Petunia nodded with a very off-putting giggle.
Yes. It seems these boys lack
Petunia glanced down at the gang leader's crotch.
certain genetic gifts.
The gang leader covered his crotch with his hands as if that would protect him from judgment.
And thus they take it out on young women.
The gang leader stood uncomfortably.
I guess they can't face real warriors. Probably because they are not real men. Anyway.
Petunia suddenly gave the gang leader a serious look.
You wouldn't know where I could find them, would you, Nigel?
The gang leader, Nigel, stared at Petunia in horror.
I never told you my name.
Petunia feigned surprise.
Oh, you didn't.
Petunia shrugged.
I guess I can drop the pretense.
Before the gang leader, Nigel could do anything. He felt a sharp pain in his throat. He looked down to find that the little poppet had produced a dagger from seemingly nowhere and embedded it in his throat. Petunia brought her face inches from the dying Nigel's face.
I would ask what you learned, but, you did. So...
Petunia let go of the dagger and Nigel's body, letting it fall to the ground. Petunia looked to the other thugs who stared, jaws agape at their fallen leader. She smiled a most savage smile.
Who's next?
The thugs ran off in horror. Petunia snickered.
I love when men give me options.
Petunia tore off her dress, revealing a sleek suit of armor covered with many bandoliers full of daggers. She gave chase to the other thugs. Petunia stood over all the thugs who were dead now. She cleaned a dagger.
I wish you boys were more of a challenge.
Petunia sheathed the dagger. Petunia had to cancel her shopping plans due to the cleanup she had to do.
Ugh, I have to add self-cleaning to the next suit.
Petunia was in her laboratory, a cave off the property of her father's manor, where she built her outfits. Petunia was her father's daughter. She wanted to join the Gnome military when she came of age. However, women could not join the military, not at this time anyway. Her father still taught her armed and unarmed combat so that the little lady could defend herself. Petunia appreciated the lessons, even though it came from a place of condescension. However, she had learned more extensive lessons elsewhere to her father's ignorance. She would sneak into the city, and with her feminine wiles would find tutors from all walks of life, from weaponsmiths to alchemists. She was an unofficial master of many, many arts. Petunia worked in her laboratory on her new outfit when she heard her name.
Madam Petunia!
I couldn't have been gone that long.
Alfus, the piston-born's butler, searched for Petunia. He knew that she would stay in her hidey hole on the premises. He could never find it due to being blind. He called out to her.
Madam Petunia, dinner's ready.
I'm here, Alfus.
Alfus clutches his chest as he calms down.
Madam Petunia, do not sneak up on an old blind man, please.
Petunia stifled a laugh, although she did feel bad.
Sorry, Alfus. That was cruel of me.
Alfus composed himself.
Anyway, dinner's ready. I hope you worked up an appetite working on your newest outfit.
Petunia told Alfus that she worked out outfits. However, she framed it as her sewing dresses. Alfus, much like her father, would be horrified by what she was really making. They would be more horrified to find out what she did in those outfits.
Yes, I sure did.
Ah, how I wish I retained my sight. I bet you look lovely in those dresses.
Petunia smiled.
Alfus, you still know how to charm a lady. Mwah.
Petunia placed a kiss on Alfus' cheek. Alfus touched his cheek and smiled.
All right. Let's get to you fed, young lady.
Petunia sat at a long table across from her father. The meal was a fine yak steak imported from England and paired with a Frankenzenbenian wine. Petunia was not being on finery, but food was the one indulgence she allowed herself. Her father looked at her with a smile.
How was your day, my dear? Did you find everything you were looking for?
No, I was detained.
Rolthscott looked concerned.
Detained?
Petunia had used the wrong word. She had to ease her father's mind, lest he become curious about her outings.
Um, eh, yes, I ran into some friends and we got to chatting. The day just got away from me. You know how us ladies are.
Right, that's good. I had heard word of a roving pack of scoundrels harassing young women. You know how I worry.
I know, father, but I can take care of myself.
My dear girl, I'm a parent. I will always worry about my daughter.
Petunia rolled her eyes.
No, father.
Petunia was back in her laboratory on her newest outfit. When she heard
Petunia!
Petunia sighed.
I'm never going to get this done.
Petunia left her hidey hole to find her friend Eliza wheeling around the property. I say wheeling because Eliza was confined to a wheelchair due to a vicious attack she suffered a year ago. The sight of the chair always made Petunia's heart hurt. She blamed herself for not accompanying her friend that day, leaving her alone to be attacked by the thugs. It was a big part of the reason that Petunia made her outfits. It was a big part of the reason that Petunia went on her outings. But Eliza continued to look for Petunia.
Petunia? Petunia! Where are you?
Petunia revealed herself from her hiding space.
Eliza, I'm here.
Eliza's face lit up upon seeing Petunia.
Petunia! There you are.
Eliza suddenly looked suspicious.
What were you doing?
Petunia was surprised by the question.
I was gardening. Yeah.
Eliza gave Petunia a suspicious look.
When did you start gardening?
Petunia shrugged as she laughed nervously.
I have to occupy my time somehow. You know the men folk don't let us do anything.
True.
Petunia was relieved that her friend bought her story.
Anyway, I wanted to go to the shops and I needed a big, strong protector. Do you want to come with me?
Petunia really didn't want to go shopping. She didn't really enjoy woman activities that much.
I don't know. I have a lot to do. Can't you ask one of your brothers?
I said I wanted a big, strong protector.
All right. All right. I'll go with you. I could use a break anyway.
Petunia pushed Eliza's chair down the city street.
Where do you want to go first?
Eliza reverted to a child for a moment. She didn't go to the city that often.
Let's shop for clothes. No. Let's get a bite to eat. No. Let's get hats. No.
Let's make a decision.
Sorry. I haven't been out in a while.
The two girls laughed. Until
Hey,
a stranger bumped into Petunia as he rushed past her. It was hard to see the stranger, for he wore black robes with a black hood. Eliza yelped at the stranger.
Watch where you're going, sir.
The stranger turned to look at the two gnomish women, revealing it was a goblin man. He sneered at Eliza. Eliza gasped with indignation.
How dare you, sir?
The goblin ignored Eliza and kept walking. Eliza looked to her friend.
Can you believe how rude some people are?
However, Petunia was more focused on the goblin stranger.
yeah.
Petunia thought it was strange that a goblin was roaming through the city. Goblins were not barred from the city. However, they weren't exactly welcome either. Petunia was very suspicious. She wanted to follow the goblin, but she was Eliza's escort. She had to think of something. An idea came to her.
Say, Eliza, there's a new cafe I was hoping that we would investigate. I hear they have elvish pastries.
Eliza's eyes brightened with excitement.
What are we sitting round for? Let's go!
Petunia wheeled Eliza up to a table, and then tried to run off. Eliza caught her.
Where are you going?
Petunia stopped in her tracks.
I have to go.
Go where?
Petunia had to think fast. Petunia looked around and then leaned towards Eliza.
I have to use the washroom.
Eliza cringed and waved off Petunia.
All right, all right. Don't need the details. Just go.
Petunia smiled.
Thank you. I'll be back in a moment. Ta!
Petunia ran off. Petunia felt bad for abandoning her friend, but that goblin made her feel uneasy. Petunia searched through the city for the goblin.
Where could he have gone?
And then she saw him. The goblin was weaving through the crowd. Petunia shadowed the goblin through the crowd. Petunia followed the goblin onto an alley. She hid behind a few garbage cans as she watched the goblin meet with 5 other robed figures. Thrake just barely made it to the gathering. He had spent years inside Boomvroomburg's dark underbelly, getting to know the drenches of gnome society. He had made friends with every gnome, goblin, and kobold who could get him connections. He had gotten in the good graces of Boomvroomburg's bad element. He had spent months trying to get this meeting to happen, and he wasn't going to screw it up now. One of the robed figures took off the hood, revealing a gnomed man.
You're cutting close, Thrake.
Petunia was surprised,
Huh?
for she recognized the unhooded gnome as Calig Vial. He was the head of the Vial crime family, the most wicked family and crime organization in Vroomburg. She didn't know what this gathering was about, but she knew it couldn't be good.
I think I need to change into my outfit.
Thrake was nervous that all eyes were on him now, but he couldn't show that. He would be a sheep running from wolves, the most vicious wolves in Vroomburg. He composed himself.
Let's cut the chase, gentlemen. I think I've found you the best score Boomvroomburg has to offer.
Calig gave the goblin a dubious look.
I've heard this before, Thrake. That talk usually leads to
A blade extended from Calig's sleeve.
disappointment for all involved.
The sudden blade made Thrake nervous, but he kept his composure.
Even without the death threats, I would be foolish to disappoint the likes of you fine gents.
Petunia didn't know what the goblin was offering, but if it involved the worst of Boomvroomburg, she had to stop it. She tore off her clothes, revealing her outfit with new knives.
I need to put a stop to this.
Another hooded figure brought down his hood to reveal he was the crime lord Nigel Ingcott.
What is...
We would not get to know Nigel any further, nor would he ever finish his sentence as a knife embedded himself in his head, causing Nigel's body to fall to the ground. Where it caused the crime lords to panic, which caused Thrake to panic.
Oh, hell!
Yes!
Petunia cheered to herself.
Ha!
When she saw that her dagger struck true in a crime lord's head, she pulled out several more daggers.
Now,
And smiled to herself.
let's take out the rest of the rubbish.
One of the crime lords looked at Thrake in horror.
You've led us into a trap. I'm getting out of here.
The crime lord started running. But he didn't get far, as a dagger embedded itself in the back of his skull. The other crime lords panicked and ran off. All except one. Calig glared at Thrake with fury in his eyes.
Thrake, what is this?
Thrake stuttered in a failed attempt to explain how he had no idea what was going on.
You see, what happened was...
Before Thrake could fail to utter a word, Calig was on him with surprising speed. Calig's hand wrapped around Thrake's throat.
You will pay for this.
Petunia saw Calig choke the goblin. She had one dagger left. She didn't want to waste it on a throw. She had to get close. His attention was on the goblin. This was perfect time.
I will end your evil.
Calig's grip grew tighter on Thrake's throat.
This was a very stupid move.
Thrake's constricted throat didn't allow him to agree with Calig. Petunia charged towards Calig with her dagger ready to plunge into his head. However, Calig used his surprising speed to catch Petunia's throat in his hand.
A lot of stupid moves today.
Petunia was able to place a kick into Calig's ribs, causing pain to shoot through Calig's body, and his grip to loosen on Petunia and the goblin. Calig glared at his new opponent with fury.
You will regret that, wench.
Petunia got into a defensive stance.
I'll be the judge of that.
Calig swung his wrist blade, but Petunia ducked under the blow. Petunia went to stab Calig, but he managed to block the blow with a backhand. Craig delivered a kick to Petunia's midsection, causing her to hit the ground. Petunia tried to get to her feet, but Calig's foot hitting her throat knocked her back to the ground. Calig smiled savagely as his foot crushed Petunia's windpipe.
You're a stupid little girl. You are dealing with things over your...
Calig stopped and looked puzzled as Petunia's furious face glared up at him.
Wait. Your face is familiar.
Thrake regained his breath and looked to see Craig occupied with the strange girl. This was his chance. Calig still had Petunia's throat in his hand, as he continued to stare at her curiously.
Why do I know your face?
Petunia struggled against the crime lord's grip, but to no avail. He was surprisingly strong for a gnome. He brought his face closer to hers.
Who are you?
Not that Petunia was going to answer the question, but if she was, she wouldn't have had time, as a dagger embedded itself in Calig's shoulder. Pain was enough to distract Calig and loosen his grip. Petunia dropped to the ground. Calig turned to face Thrake, who was standing with another dagger in his hand. Calig sneered.
You will regret your betrayal, goblin.
Calig threw something against the ground and exploded into a cloud of smoke. And when the smoke cleared, Calig was gone, only Petunia and Thrake. Petunia looked around frantically.
Where did he go?
He's not who you need to worry about, love.
Petunia turned her attention to the goblin, who had a hand in his robe.
I have something for you.
Petunia got herself into a defensive position. She was ready for the goblin to pull out another dastardly dagger or a cruel crossbow. But it was worse. The goblin pulled out a badge. He was a constable.
A lot of questions.
Uh-oh.
Sadly, that is all Welxis could tell me before she had to return to her shift and attend to the other prisoners. I was excited for her return tomorrow. I can't wait to see what happens.